Welcome to this week's episode of Beyond the Script. My name is Nikki. It is Tuesday. And on Tuesday, I drop a new episode of the Beyond the Script podcast. So anytime that if you're looking on the podcast site, just for your own knowledge, anytime that you see episode ... that means that that's a podcast live. All the other recordings are live recordings with whiteboard teachings and things like that. If you are not subscribed, subscribe, because starting next Thursday, I'm going to start doing a Monday through Friday live teaching on various things that have to do with turning your experience into income, storytelling frameworks to use your story to make sales, intuitive writing, email marketing, all across the board. But today, what we're going to get into is we're going to talk about why manifestation is actually in the work that you are avoiding. This is something that I had to come to terms with. And yeah, we got to get to it. We got to get to it. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to say is manifestation is not a passive process. Okay. This is not, there's a whole thing in the spiritual community that, you put out these good vibes and you say, like, I want this, this, and this. And then you sit around and you wait. And then all of a sudden, all of your dreams come true and all the manifestations come true. Right. I'm here to tell you that no, that's not it's like not even the half of it. Okay. One thing is for certain, you are always manifesting. You are always creating your own reality. You are always, making things happen by way of your own beliefs. And so if you don't understand what your beliefs are, if you don't understand what your subconscious beliefs are, this is why you're staying in a loop, in a manifestation loop of quote unquote having everything that you don't want, or manifesting things that are, let's say, negative or not really in line with where you're going. The problem is not the manifestation process. The problem is actually in the beliefs that you're holding about yourself that are reflecting outwardly in the reality that you see around you. Okay. So when we think about manifestation, instead of thinking about it in a way that is like, well, I need to go and get something, I need to go and, call this thing in, we need to start looking at manifestation as a way of being, as a way of, or I'm sorry, as a byproduct of what our beliefs are. When we look at it like that, we're not chasing. One of the things that I do agree with is that whole, like, I don't chase, I attract statement. Yes, that is true to a fault. However, you attract based on what you believe that you deserve. You attract based on the subconscious beliefs that you have running underneath your conscious brain, right? All the things that are running the show are what you are manifesting. This is why you can want to call in a lot of money. And when you go to call in a lot of money, I want you, if you're watching this live, if you're watching the replay, whatever, send me a DM. I don't care. Tell me about a time. Tell me this happened to you. You're like, I'm going to call in more money. I'm going to call in a lot of money. And you go to call in the money. And as soon as you have the money, you get rid of it. Leave me a 1 if that's ever happened in the comments, or like I said on the replay. But you go and you get rid of it. Well, what do you mean you get rid of it, Nikki? I mean, you call in this money, right? You get this money. And the second that you got it, you are paying off something, right? You're sending the money elsewhere. And that's not to say that money doesn't circulate back to you, but it's behind the emotion that you hold. You've called this in, but now you don't feel safe with it. And so you get rid of it. I used to do this. I'll give you a prime example of a time that I did this. Back in 2021, I was like, man, I just want to have an online business and I want some high ticket clients and I'm going to call them in, right? Putting myself out here with this one. But I was like, I'm really going to do this thing. I'm really going to do this thing. And so it took about a year, 8 months, I think. And I was finally starting to get high ticket clients in the way that I wanted. And I had wanted to get them through writing. I wanted to be able to write. And I wanted from my writings for people to just click and buy. Okay. That's really what I wanted. And it started happening. And so as it started happening, because I did not know about manifestation and safety and things like that in the body, my nervous system was not ready for it. And so I self-sabotaged the entire thing. I finished the contract with these clients. I got rid of the money as soon as it came in. I sent it all to some bills or whatever. Like, it was one of those things where, like, It did not need to all be paid off right then and there, and I was like, "Oh, I got the money, let me get rid of it." So I paid off whatever, I don't even remember what it was, but I paid off something. After doing that, I had convinced myself in this moment, I had convinced myself that I was out of money. And even though I had proof that I just called in some high ticket clients from a Facebook post, I still got rid of the money, told myself that I was out of money because at the time, like, I had no savings left, all of that because I had invested into my business. So I told myself that I was out of money and I went back to corporate. I went back to corporate 2 months later. I started applying in 2 months I had gotten a job and my start date was about, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks later. So the full from that moment to start date was less than 90 days because I had called in what I wanted, but I did not know how to manage it. I did not know how to maintain it. I did not know how to subconsciously feel safe with it. On the outside, it's everything that I was asking for, right? But on the inside, that's not, my identity didn't level up to that. And so this is why you'll have messy manifestations, I'll call them. Have you ever, I know some people, because I used to say this too. Some people will be like, well, sometimes I can manifest what I want and sometimes I can't, right? But the thing of it is, like I said, we're always manifesting. So when you think that you can't manifest what you want, it really comes down to the beliefs that you're holding. One of the things that's diluted this idea of manifestation is like the idea of like it always has to be high vibe, waiting for the sign, don't force different things like that. But if you're always calling something in, then it's really just about changing your reality. How do you change your reality? To change your reality, you first have to change your perception. See, if you're manifesting all the time and you're doing the things, right? You're doing what you feel you should be doing every single day and you're like, I'm trying to call this in, I'm trying to call this in, I'm trying to call this in. First, you're too focused on the end result if you're doing it that way because you're too focused on trying to call the thing in versus just, you know, simply trusting that it's yours. There's a difference, okay? I don't know if you've ever heard the expression like when we talk about prayer and praying to God that, if it's already been placed on your heart to have it, it's already yours. Everything that you desire is already yours, right? And so when we're trying to constantly call something in, it's a lot of begging energy. It's a lot of, please let me just have this one thing. Let me have this. Let me please, instead of becoming the person who just has it before they have it. My favorite analogy, and I think I touched on this last week, but my favorite analogy of this is, when you're getting ready to fall asleep, you don't just lay down and close your eyes and suddenly you're asleep. It doesn't work like that. If it did, God save myself so many hours. It doesn't work like that, right? You have to lay there and then you close your eyes and then you pretend you're going to sleep. And eventually, because you have so much belief, I'm going to fall asleep, what happens is you fall asleep. But first, your reality didn't match that. You're laying there with your eyes closed awake. And so it's the same thing with wanting to call something in for manifestation. You have to match it. You have to match the energy. So if we use the example that I just gave about, me calling in these clients, but then I didn't have the capacity. I didn't match the energy. So this is why the manifestation got so messy. Once you match and you hold the energy, then you can hold your manifestations. And at that point, they don't even feel like manifestations anymore because it's just your reality. And that's really what I'm trying to get through to you is everything that you desire that you're calling in as a manifestation practice is just you changing your perception of things, tweaking your behaviors, tweaking your actions, tweaking your beliefs so that it matches the level of who you are and the identity you hold that already has that already receives these things. And if you don't know how, this is where I strongly recommend like a meditation and a journaling practice. But I will say this, as an avid journaler, you can't get stuck in the journaling. And this is the whole point of the episode today is how manifestation is in the work that you're avoiding. What we like to do is we like to look at the fancy side of manifestation. We like to look at the side of manifestation that tells us, okay, if you just think it and write it out, it's going to happen. That's a part of it. But then there's work to be done. And we will avoid the work because it's uncomfortable, and we will hide behind journaling and meditation and things like that because we're just calling it in. I'm just going to call it in. I'm just going to write it out and it's going to come to me. And like I said, I'm an avid journaler. Okay? I am not against journaling by any means, but you cannot use journaling as an escape tactic to avoid the actual work of becoming the woman who has the stuff, who has the desires, who holds the desires. See, you'll avoid the work because that's the uncomfortable part. And that's what they don't want to tell you about manifestation. They don't want to tell you that it gets uncomfortable. But it has to get uncomfortable because how are you going to embody a new identity without shedding a piece of yourself first? That's not a process that people like to talk about. That's not a process because it's not fancy, it's not glorified. It's not like, "Oh, well, I don't want to do all that hard stuff. I just want to sit with my legs crossed and my fingers out and, meditate it in." Of course you do, that's comfortable. You can escape in meditation. Of course you do. But to actually make the whole process work, your meditation is for you to learn stillness, to learn patience, and in many cases to receive the guidance of what you need to be doing. Your journaling, your writing practice is the same thing, especially if you do what I like to call intuitive writing, where you are writing in a free flow state. You're not thinking about what's coming out on the paper. You're just writing, 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 whether it makes sense or not. And you're clearing out these subconscious beliefs. You're clearing out the beliefs that are making you manifest, for lack of a better term, the wrong thing. You're clearing out these old beliefs. You're putting them on the paper. Now you can analyze it. You could be like, oh, damn, I did not know I was holding on to that. No wonder I can't call in money because I'm looking at what I just wrote and I'm saying, like, if, talking about a time where you heard money was the root of all evil and it changes people and this and that. And so now your subconscious belief is like, well, if I get a lot of money, nobody's going to like me. Nobody's going to want to hang around me. Right. So you have that subconscious belief going on. Now you can see it on the paper. Now you can move through it. As you move through it, this is the part that up-levels your identity. This is the part that then gets you to becoming the woman you're meant to be, to have the desires of what you wish or what you desire. But that middle part, right? That part where you're pretending to sleep, that's the part that gets uncomfortable because when you are evolving into a new identity, it does not feel aligned all the time. No. And the reason that it doesn't feel aligned all the time is because you are shedding a way that you have been for however many years. You are shedding old beliefs that you've held onto for decades. You are releasing everything that you thought was comfortable to step into this level of discomfort until it becomes comfortable. And that right there is the work that people avoid. That's what they don't tell you in these little manifestation templates and journals and things like that. They don't tell you that there still has to be work. If you look at the word attraction in law of attraction, the word action is right there. It's in the word. What does that tell me? In order to have the attraction, I have to take action. Excuse me. I have to take the action on the thing. So what does that action look like? That's for you to decide. This is, like I said, this is where your practice comes to play. And if you want to quantum, if you want to just dive right in and quantum into something else, you have to take faster, more consistent action than maybe you will have to in order to sustain it. So if you want a business model, for example, where, you're signing in, let's say high ticket clients, right? You're signing in high ticket clients and you're going live and running these live master classes once a week. And you're like, once a week, I'm a host a live and, I want this amount of people on, or, maybe you don't care about the amount of people. You're like, I want to enroll one client per week on a weekly live, right? Let's say that's your goal, but you're just starting out and you want to quantum jump that. You're like, I want to manifest this quickly. Then maybe you're going to have to start out with daily lives. Maybe you're going to have to start out doing a lot more action up front, jump into that identity, and then once it's there, then you can fall back a little bit. Then that's the manifested piece at the end is like, okay, well, I quantumed into this manifestation. So now I can actually do my weekly lives. Now I can just do once a week and enroll one high ticket client or whatever it is, right? That's just an example. Maybe you want to pay down some debts quick and you're like, yeah, I want a lot of money fast. So then maybe the action for you to get that lot of money fast is, okay, well, I'm going to have to sell more. I'm going to have to, for my corporate people, get a second job. I don't recommend it. If that's what you want to do, go ahead. You know what? Something like that to bring in, to call in what you need quickly means you're going to have to take a little more action. And then to take it a step further, you have to hold the faith and assume the law of assumption, which is technically not like a universal law, but it's a recognized law. The law of assumption, you assume that what you are calling in is already yours. You assume the identity of the woman who has that. You assume the habits, the practices, the belief system, everything of the woman who already has that. I thought my son was coming out here. Okay. When the work starts to feel heavy, and it will at times. Alignment is not always rainbows and butterflies. When the work starts to feel heavy, when it starts to feel like, man, I feel like I'm pushing up against a wall. I'm not really seeing the results. And that little voice that's like, maybe this ain't it, right? The little doubts of the little faith doubts, I'll call them. I want you to start to normalize the resistance a little bit. Normalize the resistance as a part of the alignment. Write that down. Normalize the resistance as a part of the alignment because what is happening is your identity is shifting. Your ego is going to freak out. If you have held on to something for a certain amount of time, you've held on to a belief, you've held on to a habit, you've held on to whatever it is for an extended period of time, and you're coming out of that, the resistance is a normal part of the process. Excuse me. Maybe I wasn't supposed to say this next part, but I'm going to say it. Think about if you know somebody who's ever worked like a sober program, right? Somebody who's quit drinking. If drinking was a regular part of their life, was a normal part of their life, obviously, it's better for them to get sober, right? Certain people, it's better for them to get sober. There's going to be resistance to that. Even though from the outside looking in, this is why I'm having you think of like somebody you know that's gone through like some type of work like this. From the outside looking in, we know that that is the aligned path for them. We know that that is the best case scenario, right? From the outside looking in, but they might not see it internally yet because their whole identity is dismantling. And now they're relearning how to do things, without the substance. And there's going to probably be resistance. There's going to be hard days with that. It doesn't mean that the path is wrong. It doesn't mean that they're supposed to run back to what's familiar. It means that they're raising up into a new normal. And in order for them to do that, the old beliefs have to fall by the wayside. So when you think about your own journey, in your own manifestations, whether that's in business and life and finances, whatever, and you think about it like that, from the outside looking in, it is in alignment. It is a part of your process, right? Your alignment process. But when you're in it, that resistance is uncomfortable. It doesn't feel like that. So I want you to start to figure out how to normalize the resistance. Maybe that's through meditating. Maybe that's through writing. This is where coaching comes in, right? You have a coach who can call out your patterns. This is why I like working with coaches who have known me for a while because they can recognize my patterns. They can be like, Nikki, we've been through this. I had a coach tell me that one time. She's like, we already talked about this. I was like, you're right. You are right. This is me resisting what I'm not supposed to be resisting, right? So this is where having some type of accountability comes into play, okay? Let's see. What time is it? All right. The last thing I'm going to leave y'all with is this. Okay. I want you to think about your process of manifesting. I want you to think about what you think manifestation is. And I want you to think about if it conflicts what I just told you. And I want you to write this. What am I calling manifestation that is actually avoidance? In other words, what is the work that I am avoiding and calling it manifestation? The work could be as simple as just showing up. You could be working every single day. Let's talk business for a second. You could be working every single day on your business. You got offers, you got sales pages done, you got funnels done, you got all these things, but you're not showing up. It could be as simple as that. You'd be like, well, I'm manifesting these clients and I'm manifesting these sales and blah, blah, blah. And I've got everything ready to go. And like, that's good. But then the avoidance could simply be in showing up. That could quite literally be the missing piece of your manifestation. Is it's like, well, okay, that's cool, but you got to show up. You'll be like, damn. Right? So I want you to think about what you're calling manifestation that is actually avoidance. Maybe it's getting up earlier. Maybe it's going to bed a little bit later. For my night owls, I'm a night owl. I am absolutely a night owl. And there are certain tasks that I have to do late at night. Right? And so I can't be like, well, I'm tired. Okay, yes, but what do I want more? The same of the same? Or to be tired for a little season to catapult me into the things that I'm manifesting over here, right? Like you have to start asking yourself these questions. Or on the flip side, well, I'm a night owl, but maybe you can't get any work done at night. Maybe your whole family is up late at night with you. And so you're supposed to get up a little bit earlier. And I'm not saying this for everybody. I'm not implying, listen, I will never be the coach who is like, you need to get up before your children because I have 3 children. And if I'm up early, they're up early. There's no way around it. You know what I mean? So it's like different things like that. You have to figure out what you are avoiding or what you are pretending is manifestation that is actually you playing in the avoidance. Maybe you're journaling too much. Maybe you're meditating too much. Maybe you're waiting for too much clarity. Clarity comes from doing things. Clarity comes from taking action. You will never have more clarity than when you actually start doing stuff. And doing stuff for an enough amount of time to gather data. That's a key piece. Because see, I used to be doing stuff all the time, but I would never do it long enough to gather enough data. So it'd be like 3 weeks. I'd be like, well, it's not working. Well, how do you know? You've had 21 days. That's not even a quarter of the year. You know what I mean? So you have to start being honest with yourself. You know, if there's certain things you want to manifest and call in, you have to start being honest with yourself with what role you are playing in this process. Why are your desires not being manifested? And why is it everything that you don't want that's being manifested? What role are you playing in that? Okay. The manifestation is not going to save you from the work. Everything you want in the manifestation is on the other side of the work that you are avoiding. All right. With that being said, that was today's episode of Beyond the Script. If you got some nuggets out of that, share it, send it out to your friends, entrepreneur friends, whomever. Send it out to them. Be sure to subscribe on Substack. Like I said, starting next Thursday, what is the date next Thursday? The 29th. It should be starting next Thursday. I'll be live this week, but I'll be live next Thursday, Friday, and then the following week at either 8:30 or 9:30 Pacific Standard Time. I will be doing these weekday live trainings. I got my whiteboard. We started that a little bit last week. And yeah, we're going to learn. We're going to learn together. We're going to make some money together, and we're going to have a wonderful 2026. So I will see you all on Substack Live tomorrow and on the next official Beyond the Script episode next Tuesday. Everybody have a great day. Bye.